Hello, hi, good morning, namaste, all you beautiful people. So, welcome to a new video from the Pigment Studios titled Psychosocial Care, an initiative to serenity, tranquility, solace among the testing times of COVID-19 pandemic. So, my name is Harshika. I am an LMNI from All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Patna, and currently I am working as a psychosocial care provider here itself. So before I start this video formally, I'd like to grab a moment to thank Mr. Anu Ashokan sir, who's a senior nursing officer, and his team for giving me this opportunity to present my views and to present my experiences on this topic. I hope this helps the healthcare professionals who are watching this, as well as the people who are watching this. As a psychological support, psychosocial care is not just the role of the healthcare professionals, but also the role of the family members, the friends, the relatives, the neighbors, everybody in whose contact anybody is affected with this catastrophe. So in this video, I'll be basically talking about, to you about what psychosocial care is, why it is essential, and what were my experiences throughout as a psychosocial care provider. So we know pandemic in its true sense refers to an outbreak of a disease that widespreads, and it not only physically debilitates a person, physically debilitates an individual, but also affects an individual psychologically, emotionally and mentally. You know, throughout this catastrophe, we have come across different patients showing significant, emotional disturbances. And hence it becomes an utmost concern for the healthcare providers, for the healthcare professionals to address to not only the physical well-being of the individual, the patient, but also ensure an emotional prosperity, mental prosperity of the patients. And here comes the role of the psychosocial care providers, that we try to ensure a holistic well-being of the patient, holistic patient care. And we have a team who's working wholeheartedly to support our patients with a strong belief, with faith, and we have certain attainable goals so that we can help our patients. As the saying goes, the more faith you have, the more you believe, the more goals you set, the more you achieve. So reach for the stars, pick a mountain to climb, but give yourself time. Remember, no matter how futile things seem to be, with faith, there's no impossible dream. So we have this faith, we have this determination, we have this, focus and enthusiasm to help you, to bring you out of this mishappening, to be there for you, to lend an ear to you. So that is why psychosocial care. So what psychosocial care basically is, it is basically something that ensures psychic as well as the social well-being of a patient, particularly patients who are at risk or who are showing certain features of depression, anxiety or stress, which may eventually progress to suicidal ideations, suicidal tendencies among patients, if they are not addressed to properly or through failed coping strategies. Okay, so we basically, our purpose for this initiative was to address to the needs, to listen to the patients, because it kind of gets very difficult for the healthcare professionals who are involved in the care and the treatment, for example the medical officers, the nursing officers, to kind of give adequate time because of a hectic schedule and patient load. It becomes very difficult for them to address to other needs of the patients. So here comes the role of the psychosocial care providers. We have certain purposes which includes interacting with the patients on a daily basis, assessing their general condition and the well-being of the patients. Apart from that, addressing to the physiological as well as the psychological needs of the patient and collaborating care accordingly. And we also, the main purpose obviously is to provide psychological support to the patient, to provide psychological care to the patients, to lend an ear to the patient, to be there for the patients, to listen to them. This is the main purpose. Apart from that, educating them, because we know once a person kind of, their doubts are clarified, it helps not only for us to gain their trust, to gain their cooperation in the treatment process, but also allows the patient to relieve their stress, to kind of ventilate whatsoever is going on in their mind regarding the disease condition or regarding anything that they are dealing with in life. Then other purposes includes close monitoring of the patients who we think are at risk or might have certain or showing certain warning signs. So we have to kind of have a close observation for those patients through look, listen, link and act. So this was the principle we were working on. Apart from that, identifying the warning sign is one of the major purposes. Involving the patients into recreational activities, into group sessions, into group activities, allowing them to talk to each other, because obviously they're not in immediate contact with their family members. Seeing professionals wearing PPE all around brings additional stress, brings additional anxiety, and it is kind of monotonous also. So individual group sessions kind of breaks the monotony. It also serves as a diversional as well as relaxation therapy for the patients. Apart from that, we also encourage patient to get involved into breathing exercises, relaxation therapies, range of motion exercises. This will not only improve the lung health of the patients but also helps to relieve stress, and which is also a part of the post-COVID rehabilitation. So yeah, these were some of the purposes. Apart from that, we also were involved in educating the patient, health education, clarification of the doubts of the patients if they had anything regarding their treatment modality, because with the kind of information that is flourishing all around, it's very difficult to rely on one particular source, and especially for a layman, it's very difficult for them to really understand what exactly is going on. So just being there for the patient, explaining things to them, why an HRCT is done, what is an RT-PCR, or what all medications are going, why are steroids deranging certain parameters of their investigations. So all of these things kind of helps to de-stress the person. It helps them to participate in the treatment process themselves, get involved in their treatment process, and that has significant benefits. Apart from that, all of these things, basically we delivered this through 3 levels. We are delivering it through 3 levels. The level 1 includes the psychosocial care providers, the nursing officers, the medical officers who are responsible for immediate intervention. And in the level 2, there are supervisors who are responsible for better clinical judgment and for better assessment, and if it is not sorted till level 2, it goes to level 3, which includes the psychologists, the psychiatrists, who are responsible for apt management through apparently drug prescription and other interventions. Okay, so collaboration between all of these 3 levels is very important to kind of deliver and utilize the service to a maximum extent. The flow of information from the right person, and flow of relevant information, the information that would help the patient and is very important to be to reach a particular person. So all of these things is a part of collaborative care, and which was the basic motive. So holistic patient care. So next I'll be talking to you about clinical judgment, as I've used this term. So you might think what it is, because usually in improving the patient's condition physically, clinical judgment is done. Whether to start a particular medication or not, or whether to hold a particular medication, all of these things, that is a very technical thing. But clinical judgment when it comes to psychosocial care is also important. With the amount of patients we are having, it is again not possible for us to address to them and give equal amount of time to the patient. It is important for us to assess which patient basically needs a formal assessment and intervention. So for that, whenever we are allotted respective wards and cubics, COVID wards and cubics, the first thing that we do is that we'll interact with all the patients. We interact with all the patient. We assess them on various parameters. We know about their basic details, and after that we come to a precise judgment whether to do a formal assessment or not, and what sort of management should be the patient should undergo. The tool that we are using is the DAS 21 assessment scale. Basically, it is a scale having set of 21 questions that assesses a patient's on various parameters and telling us about the levels of anxiety, depression and stress, and the scoring is done accordingly. And the next, I'll be talking about the therapeutic techniques. We know that there are various techniques that we can use in conversation with the patient. For example, active listening, one of the major techniques. Yeah, because it's very difficult for people, in today's time to kind of listen. Listening, lending an ear is very important. Yeah. The other things can be used, such as paraphrasing, restating, explaining, being there, interacting with them individual, assuring them that we are there for them, all of these things can be used in conversation with the patients. Apart from that, whenever we are trying to build a therapeutic relationship, it is not a one-day process. Expecting, that you're going to the patient and, the patient is going to ventilate everything that he is feeling is practically not possible. As a psychosocial care provider, it's very essential for us to kind of give time. Sometimes the patients are not cooperative initially because of their physical debilitation, physical sufferings, and apart from that, all of the things that they are, going through, it's very difficult for them to kind of, talk to you and convey, because they will feel maybe or maybe not you will be helpful or not. But if you're being consistent with the patient, if you're going and talking to the patient every day on a daily basis, that kind of brings a sense of trust, and then they will gradually start to believe you're there for them, you're coming for them, you're talking to them. So yeah, building a therapeutic relationship is very important, and there are various models, there are various theories. I'll not go into the criticalities, in the details of it, but yeah, I can just mention a few. For example, the Hildegard Paplow's model of interpersonal relationship, that has apparently 4 phases like orientation, exploitation, termination. All of these 4 phases are there. And then we can use the Johari window model of communication, but we have to make sure that it has to have a professional approach. Whatsoever model, whatsoever theory you're using, you have to be professional in it, because we know we are dealing with certain things that needs a professional approach. Negotiating mental issues, it's easy to say that you can just go and talk, but what to talk, what to say, what not to say, when to say, all of these things are very important, and for that having a professional approach is very important. And this is just for the healthcare professionals. If you're not a healthcare professional, you just be there. This is this time, it's very important for us to be there for our loved ones. Listen to them, talking to them, even over the phone, asking them how they are is therapeutic, is beneficial. So if you're not a healthcare provider, if you're not a healthcare professional, be there. Talk to your relative, friend, whosoever is there in the hospital, talk to them. And if you are one, then you need to have a professional approach. Apart from that, coming on to what challenges you might face, there are various challenges. Being a psychosocial care provider, you have to, there are so many challenges you will face in the clinical setup, heterogeneous, diverse challenges you will face. I know this sounds kind of very strong, but yeah, building relationship itself is a tedious process, and so obviously challenges are there. Some of them can be problems in data collection, or problems in environmental setup, lack of cooperation from the patient, lack of exact clinical setup wherein you can provide or give your services, fidelity, confidentiality issues from the all of these things are there, and lack of availability of resources, and also delay in emergent action will also break the trust of the patient. If you're saying you're going to do something, and you are not you're not doing it, or you're not being you're assuring something and you're not able to deliver it, that will break the trust. That will eventually end the patient's trust in you, and he will not cooperate. So all of these are challenges. All of these, as a healthcare professional, you have to keep all of these things in your mind. Yeah, I'm also learning, and it is definitely a learning process for us. We are facing various problems, various challenges every day, and learning every day through this process, and trying our best to be there for our patients, to kind of help them out in what's so possible way we can, because we know mental well-being is a part of overall well-being of an individual. Mental tonicity is a very subjective attribute, we know, but it has a lot of external influences, and which needs to be negotiated well in order to prevent mishappenings. And the major motive is, for us, the major motive is to identify the warning signs, to know about the whereabouts of the warning signs, to know about the history behind it, and then help the patient accordingly. So yeah, this brings me to the end of this video. I hope this is helpful to you till even the minutest extent. I'll be glad if it is. To the healthcare professionals, to the ones who are not, just one small little message. In this catastrophe, it is important for us to, just be there for our loved ones, even if they're not our loved ones. On human grounds, we have to lend an ear. We have to be there for people. We have to love them. We have to be humane. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this is helpful. Stay healthy, stay safe.